Well, first, kia ora, Dai.
Kia ora.
Thanks for having us in your home today. So nice to be here
pleasure.
talking to you. Now, the last time that Kiwis heard from you was about a month ago on February 24th when you posted quite a confronting video on your social media, and in it you talked about how you were actually struggling to talk a bit in it and even breathe, I think, and you talked about postponing your shows.
Yeah, I stopped being so public around when the documentary on my sort of cancer journey had come out, and just when I got to the end of finishing that, I started to have breathing issues. I just suddenly noticed that my breathing was really laboured. I sleep on my side, and I couldn't sleep on this side because this lung felt like it was sort of collapsed. The chemo I was on had sort of, with the drug that I was on, had come to the end of its usefulness, so I needed to move on to the next drug. And thankfully that even after one round my breathing had came back heaps. And now I've done 2 rounds of that, and I'm doing four or five more. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome because I've got to a point now where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be able to perform, I'm going to be able to do what I love, I can chuck the ball around with my kids.
Yeah.
So getting quality of life back is amazing.
I mean, we hadn't seen you publicly, as you say, since around the time that you did the doco, and then to see that video that you posted and to realise that cancer had transferred in the way it had into your lungs, it was really confronting. It kind of stopped me in my tracks. How were you feeling at that point? I mean, as you say, it's every single breath that you realise it's there.
Yeah, it's because I'm in April. I come up to 5 years since I've been diagnosed with stage 4 now incurable bowel cancer, and that is a huge win for me because stats of getting to 5 years are pretty slim, and because I've had to deal with all the emotions of possible outcomes and I had got to grips with that, so that wasn't too confronting, but it's just when it suddenly becomes real and you're like, oh, actually I need these lungs, so I've got to get them open again, and all the nerves around, because the drug cetuximab, which I've moved on to, it's looked at as being very effective at shrinking my type of tumour. I'm finding this particular drug actually quite hard, and so my times of feeling good between chemo are shrunken down a bit. I get it gives you a rash because it's a epidermal growth restrictor, I think is the term. Mm-hmm. So it mucks up with how your skin grows. So I get a rash on my back and sort of on my face, and when I was a teenager, I had a bad T-zone and facial eczema.
Oh, we've all been there with acne, yeah.
If you know someone who is going through cancer treatment, there's so many other add-ons. Yeah. You get infections around your nails and all these just little bits and bobs that are on top of the actual drug you're taking, because cancer treatment is harsh, Often the drug in the short term can hurt more than the symptoms that you're getting. But for me, with the breathing, for instance, it was such a relief that the side effects were like, okay, actually, being able to breathe is awesome. I was thankful that I've always been into keeping sort of relatively fit, doing breath work and stuff, so I had techniques to be able to breathe. Mm-hmm. And my actual oxygen saturation was good, so my body was getting enough air. But then, when your lungs aren't working properly, your back muscles are trying to transport oxygen or help oxygen move. So my whole back was seized up, my rotator cuff tore.
Oh,
So I was sort of quite hunched up. And then everything just unlocked after.
when you went into the treatment.
Yeah. So
That sounds like magic.
it was magic, and like, it's so hard, but so worth it.
Yeah. What round of chemotherapy are you up to now?
Well, next week I'll be doing round 35.
35
for me.
rounds of
Yeah,
chemotherapy.
35 of over. Yeah, 35 mixed in with, I've had 5 or 6 major surgeries as well in there as well. Sort of half my liver removed, and bowel, and 3 lung surgeries, and then a bowel redone up, and a ablation on my liver. Just the constant sort of rotating travelator of procedures and chemo has been so full on. But then on the flip side of that, I'm so proud of the man I've become throughout this cancer journey, and the husband and the father I've become. Like, it has really forced me to focus on who I am and who I want to be, and so that's been a positive out of it. But yeah, it seems endless. Time is tiny now. Time is tiny. Expectations are 0, and you know, when I have a week, like, this week is a non-treatment week, and it's like 7 whole days without treatment. It's huge, you know.
Yeah. So you said April will be 5 years since you were first diagnosed.
Yeah, April 20 I was diagnosed with that beginning of COVID.
Have you at any point asked or been given a time frame of expectation? Is that something that the oncologists still do?
No, I mean, I don't know if that is so much a thing. I don't think it is.
You've never asked?
No, so I've never asked. Yeah. I've actually
deliberately
asked not to be told.
You don't
that.
want to be given a time frame, you just want to live your life.
No, because I believe that words have a lot of power.
They do.
So I do not want to be told that. No one tells me when I'm going to go. And no one knows how I'm going to go. No one knows how anyone's going to go. So for me, it is literally about today. It's about, I sort of go 24 hours, you know? And then each 24 hours, and then that'll become a year, and then I can look back on the year. And, you know, if I keep responding to this drug potentially can be used for quite a while.
No silver bullet, nothing.
There is no silver bullet.
And when you're in treatment, how do you feel? Like, are you just wiped out? Is it horrendous?
A treatment session round for me will look like, for instance, take next week. I'll go in on Wednesday morning. I'll be in the clinic for 4 to 5 hours. I have a plastic port in my chest under my skin that they sort
put a
of
big needle in it, don't they? Yeah.
Pulp Fiction style.
The big
yeah.
yeah.
So I get plugged in and taped up, and then have an infusion of chemo, this drug that goes with the chemo. Yeah. Then I get a little baby's bottle with more chemo in it that I take away for 46 hours.
And it keeps going in.
And it keeps pumping in slowly.
And how do you feel over this time?
So the thing is, during that time, you're also on all the drugs to help you get through it.
So do they pump you up with steroids and things?
I'm on
beforehand?
steroids, really good anti-nausea.
Of course, yes.
Drugs, plus medicinal cannabis is just an absolute godsend for that. Yeah, because for me personally, obviously with all of these things, I talking from a personal point of view,
Yeah,
as everyone
yeah.
reacts differently to things. Particularly for me, the THC, because it stops me needing so many anti-nausea drugs, because anti-nausea drugs give me constipation, which then gives you nausea. and also the benefits of just helping me sleep, because steroids keep you quite wired. Obviously, the munchies are a positive thing when you're needing to get some food on board.
Yeah.
So you're quite medicated for that that couple of days. It's when you get unplugged, I call it, on the Friday. So I've gone in on the Wednesday, I go back on Friday to get unplugged. It's then you come home, and then you're coming off the steroids. You're slowly coming off the anti-nauseas and that. So,
And what does that feel like?
The worst hangover you've ever had.
And how long does it last?
And for me, the worst days are usually the Saturday and the Sunday, the 2 days after being unplugged, because it is sort of, I suppose, is like a hangover. You've taken on a lot of poison, which would be
like alcohol in your bloodstream,
and then your body's just trying to
get rid of it.
Get rid of it. So everything's working overtime.
Yeah.
Plus, your cells have taken a bit of a hammering in that, and the upside of having done 35 rounds is, I've got a bit of a toolbox.
You've got a regime.
Yeah, regime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dai's regime for chemo treatment.
Yeah, actually, it'd be good to have a sleep.
Yeah.
Then, for some reason a really hot shower works when I'm feeling like that. What really does amaze me, though, and gives me, is just how amazing humans are, right? That someone actually makes these things. It goes from, how do we stop?
Yeah,
how do we stop people feeling nauseous? That humans are making these things, it still blows me away. So, no, it's tailoring it, and that would be my massive advice to people who are going through something similar to myself, is people who get involved with their diagnosis and are active patients with their oncologists have better outcomes.
So don't just be passive.
No, don't be passive and, okay, take the script and that, say, hey, that anti-nausea drug's actually not working.
Okay.
It's okay. And they're like, oh, let's try this and this, like talk and develop a rapport, rather than if you sort of are passive and just, and it can be so hard because, I'm a comedian. I go to pubs around New Zealand and talk rubbish, I've now had to become I've learned so much about the oncology space, about my type of cancer, about just because I'm a very curious person.
I should mention, so Live and Let Die, the 3-part documentary, we can still watch it on 3 now.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
actually finished the 3rd episode last night, and it is emotional. I can't really even imagine how emotional it must have been for you.
Well, I'm a very private person, so it was actually quite huge putting it out there, but it is the piece, the sort of, the book that and the doco, which sit differently, are the two things I'm most proud of in my life, and the fact that I didn't realise or make them as a resource to sort of help people, but the fact that I get contacted and it's resonated with people, or it's offered some solace to people who are going through a similar thing, has meant so much to me. It does make me realise that humans need to be out face to face, and because when you actually have face to face interactions, a lot of heat comes out of things, and I think people understand each other more. And I've just met so many beautiful people around the country, and the joy for me has been when I, a couple of years ago, made the decision, actually, I'm going to gig between treatments and stuff, and it was a couple of years ago, I went down and did some gigs in Taupo at the tumour high sailing club, like real little place, and it was just like, there are a few cancer patients there, there's just people on the piss there, and it was just like, oh, I love doing this. Then I did some in Ohakuni and took the kids down and my wife, and we went skiing. I was like, oh, I could travel with my family. I love gigging. And then I went from just doing the smaller shows to actually doing a full, just over an hour length show, which I wrote for the documentary.
Yeah, and it's in the end there, in that beautiful standing ovation at the Opera House in Wellington.
And then I tried to tour it all, and then with treatment, the tour's taken me 2 years almost, and that's they're the gigs I had to postpone.
That's right. So that's Hastings, New Plymouth, and Invercargill.
Yeah, luckily Hastings I could keep the same date, but Invercargill and New Plymouth I had to move. And my dad was an actor. He instilled in me this show must go on work ethic and that, and I just, so weird feeling so guilty for having to move the shows.
But you're unwell.
I know, and then when I was reading comments on the post, I was like, oh God, just people understand.
People understand.
People understand. I'll be there.
So you've got these dates coming up. I think it's April 11 in Hastings, June 7 is in New Plymouth, and June 14 in Invercargill. Are you going to manage those shows?
Oh yeah, so the awesome thing is that this treatment's working. And the shows have now been placed where it's like, I do a block, I think 3 rounds or 4 rounds, then I just have a slightly bigger window of 2 weeks off.
When you do the shows?
So I'll do Hastings show at the end of the 2 weeks off, so like that's when I'm feeling my best. And then the other 2 shows are in an actual treatment break after I've done a full block.
And all going to plan, your lungs will be clearer, your breathing.
Yeah, well, now I could do the show because I've had such a great response to this drug. But it's been nice actually being able to plan it with a bit more certainty, because things just turned so quickly, and now it's like, okay, because I'm in what you'd sort of call maintenance treatment.
Am I right though in assuming that the cancer will come back again?
Yeah, well, because it won't be gone, it will be sort of shrunk, and so the aim is to keep things under control until either there's a cure or they get my type of cancer to a point where it's more like a diabetes, where it's something that's a chronic illness you control. I'm probably getting towards I'm not quite at a Hail Mary stage, but this is definitely, I mean, I don't know the exact answer, but this is definitely sort of one of the last of the big guns in the...
So after cetuximab, after you finish the cetuximab, do you have another option lined up or not at this point?
Not at this point, but I'm 2 rounds into cetuximab and we're talking like I've responded well to it. So, you know, there's a potential of years on that.
Oh, that's good to hear. Do you fear the day that you run out of options? No. When the drugs stop working?
No, because that day doesn't exist. It's the future doesn't exist, so it's not a thing. And
how do you manage that you stay in the here and now?
Yeah, because that means it's if that day comes, that means I will be worrying about it twice. So I may as well just worry about it when it comes. But yeah, it doesn't exist, so there's no point thinking about it.
Talk to me about hope.
Hope is, I love hope. Hope is, I mean, there is, that was that sort of quote, there's always hope until there isn't, which is so true. And I've met people who've had radical remission from cancer. Who've had,
There are those stories.
there are those stories.
And they create hope for you?
Yeah, and New Zealand has, we're pretty well represented in it.
Yeah.
So there is always hope. So it's like, hope for me is in many different aspects, and every day I have hope, and I'm lucky to be an optimistic person, and yeah, I still have this vibe things are going to work out.
You've got plenty of hope.
Yeah, I've got plenty of hope.
I love that. Yeah. Hold on to that.
Definitely.
I'm sure that you will be. Hold on to that. You were diagnosed in 2020. You've been living with that for 5 years, the incurable bowel cancer, the word terminal hanging over your head. 5 years on, how would you describe the impact of that on your life?
I've never had a piece of news more earth pivoting for me, like where everything changed. The amount, like, not just emotionally, but for instance, when I had to put that video out, I had corporate work lined up. I had organised basically 6 months of income to do in a month.
When you put the video out in February?
Yeah, that I had to then cancel. So it has robbed me over the last 5 years of so much income, so much money, which I'm not a big money focused person,
but we all need it to get by.
I've got a whānau, you need it, you know,
Yeah.
and as much as money doesn't make you happy, it really makes things a bit easier, especially when you're dealing with a chronic illness. And so you have that pressure, you have the financial pressure, you have the emotional pressure on a relationship, because it's a diagnosis for two. My wife deals with just as much as I deal with. I just get the physical thing of it. She gets the emotional, the whole emotional thing of it. Then we've got the balance of, I'm in treatment, so I'm low, so she's really got the burden keeping the house on track, doing her job, kids, da-da-da. Then I'll come out of treatment and she'll need some space because she'll be knackered, you know. So it has rocked my world, yet it has crystallised me as a person and a father and a husband. So although it's rocked my world, it has, I would be proud now with the legacy that I leave, and I just want to be here for a hell of a lot longer to keep being this person that I've discovered.
Talk to me about legacy. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Legacies are always a interesting one. I think of legacy a bit around when my father passed away, because he's a very prominent actor in Wellington, New Zealand, and he'd been on TV and that. And you can think of legacy around professional stuff. And then I realised when I meet people who worked with him, younger actors and that, legacy is actually who you are. And because they're like, oh, your dad was so cool, he's such an awesome guy. And that comes back to this maxim that I've always tried to keep in me, and it often relates to comedy as well, that people never remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. So for me, legacy is a vibe, and the community that I have of friends and family is so good, and I've been blessed to have that. And no, to me, legacy will be he had a good vibe, and he was just a Kiwi trying to have a good time.
And you've made so many of us laugh so many times over the years.
Laughter definitely increases those positive endorphins. You feel more jazzed. And for me, providing laughter is very important, because there's nothing more fun. I was thinking this last year when I was doing the 7 days live tour while doing chemo, and I'd go out on the road with the gang, and there's nothing better than being in a green room before a show with comics just making jokes that aren't jokes. Just anyone who's travelled with a group of friends knows these little in-jokes that build up, and then, you know, and you're crying with laughter over something no one would understand, or whatever it is. I think I love nurses and like cops and fire officers and that, because they're quite similar to comics. I think they have quite dark senses of humour.
I imagine they do, yes, and journalists.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying when you do comedy, you forget about cancer.
Yeah.
You've got these shows coming up. How important is it for you to do those shows? Because I imagine there is also a cost. You know, there's the energy, there's the time potentially away from your family. Why do them?
I do these shows because, like, the one I did one in Christchurch and one in Wellington, where I walked off stage and I cried with happiness, because I was so proud of the show, content-wise. That's the thing, is people are coming out and in such a beautiful way sort of celebrating me, because I've been honest with my diagnosis, right? And they're coming to support me. But then I walk off and I actually delivered comedically what I believe is my best show.
And is it where you feel like you?
Yeah, I feel
the most like you.
If I haven't performed in too long, the sort of lightning builds up in me.
The electricity is trying to get out.
I just feel, I just want to get out and tell some stories and have a laugh. And
yeah. And we're lucky that you do it.
Oh, thanks.
We're very lucky that you do it.